But welcome everyone. Glad to have you. Chat is already like pretty active. Lots of people in here, and I assume people. There's the double wave. We were talking about that beforehand. The double wave. I was kind of thinking beforehand. I thought this was going to be a really interesting chat, and I kind of felt like this was going to be a really successful one. That I think there's a lot that people can relate to and like ask questions to you about. Anyway, so I think this is going to be a great one. I'm glad so many people are here. I am very excited about this, and I'm very excited to have Ro on as a guest. And this started with us doing. We never like really met or talked. I think we both followed each other on Twitter, maybe.
Yeah,
Um, but it had never like actively talked, and got to be on this Q&A panel last week, a couple days ago. Was it only a couple of
a
days
couple of
ago?
days ago,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's hard to believe. And a lot of that was around just kind of, I guess, building up a social media brand, but then also we talked a lot about just engagement in the community and things. And I was really
Mhm.
just interested in learning more about your background of going from the title of the stream is like bootcamp student to developer, and like everything that comes with it and the process along the way. So I've got lots of questions myself. We'll definitely open this up to questions for people in the chat. When you have them, just throw them in there. I'll keep an eye on it, and I will prompt. But I guess to kick us off, do you want to give us a little bit of introduction into who you are, a little bit about your background, and where you are now?
Sure. So I'm gonna double wave again. So hello,
The double
my name
wave.
is Ro. Yes, with the double wave, and I am a junior front end developer. I graduated from Juno College in July, so last month. And right now I'm just doing a little bit of client work while I am doing my job hunting. And that is pretty much what I've been up to because most of us are still inside and at home because of a little something.
Yeah.
I don't know what, I don't know why, but I'm there
Yep.
and practicing some CSS art, which is super fun. And that's been my life.
I need to actually, like, I think it's super cool, and I've never done that. I've kind of thought about that before, but people are doing some really sweet CSS art stuff. And I'm gonna try to grab a link for people. Do you have a recent post about that I can, there's one, or it doesn't
Yeah.
have a link to your code pen. I want to grab, if
So
you,
if you go to the code pen, I'm actually picked, and I think it should be the fourth one there, which
oh,
is
just like on
super
CodePen
exciting.
homepage.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can't believe it either. I was like, oh my gosh.
While I'm looking for this, I'm going to share my screen because I think this is worth seeing. And so on the picked pins, do
There's a little
I?
Finn the human. He has a blue shirt and a white hat, little ears.
There it is. Cool. This is on the home for everybody here. This is on the homepage. This is
Yeah,
dope. And I think people,
thank you.
they cannot see it yet because I didn't actually send it through. Now people should be able to see it. This is so
Yeah,
cool. This is like the
thank
epitome of
you.
like you develop some skills and then you start to use your creativity to build stuff, right? And you've got these like you've
Hmm.
got animations, you've got things walking around. This is insanely
Yeah,
cool and something I've never even like thought about doing. Um,
yeah,
so that is awesome. I'm gonna throw that link in the chat so that people can go and check that out too. So probably want to go ahead and follow your code pin. So if you go to that page, go ahead and follow her for all the cool stuff that she'll do going forward, and then check out this
yeah,
thing. And I'm gonna spend some time maybe looking at this later on um, to kind of see how it works because I don't actually know. And a couple
yeah,
of other links for people. Definitely go and follow Ro on Twitter. And then here is her homepage as well. So a few links for people to check out there. And we'll come back to the Battle of the Babies. I want to have like a specific, like you kind of explain all of that in a little bit. But
yeah.
let's go back to for people out there, just kind of our camera view. And Danny is being engaged here with throwing some bits around. If you like, this is maybe new to you. It's kind of new to me, but it's a way to kind of support people in
Mhm.
Twitch, and you pay for bits, and then you send them to the people doing the stream, or I guess
Oh wow.
the person hosting the stream. And Florin Pop and or Florin and Danny get excited and they get in wars over this, so they send lots of bits as participation in these streams, which is super cool. So thank you both for doing that, and feel free to continue to
Thank you.
battle away. Um, so thinking about like one of the first things I wanted to ask about. So you just graduated your boot camp. How, like how recent did you graduate?
A month and a half
Month
ago.
and a half. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And was the whole thing online or did you have part of it that was in person?
Yeah, so my cohort is the first cohort to go fully online from front to end. We were all so determined to meet each other, and like it was very interesting going from having this expectation of like knowing you were going to be in the building, knowing you were going to be at this campus all the time, thinking about, oh my gosh, I have to travel there and I'm going to be working long crazy hours. But then everything changed.
Mhm.
Everything just flipped, and it was like, okay, I considered even pushing back my start date because I was like, okay, maybe in the next cohort I will have the opportunity to be in person. Um, but then I thought, why would I waste my time during the lockdown when I could just get a head start on my
Yep.
education and just dive right in. So I said, okay, you know what? I don't know what to expect, and this is a little scary, but I'm gonna just take this opportunity on, and I don't regret it at all. It was just the greatest way to spend my time being inside all day because newsflash, we are just as developers inside all day anyway.
That's funny. Like I said, there's so many things to relate to that. So one, I started
Yeah.
with Auth0, which is where I work as a developer advocate. I joined my
Mhm.
team in January, and I started off in Seattle in training. So it was like January 6th, I think. So I did that, but I haven't met anyone on my team, and we're kind of spread out across the world. And we would have had the
Oh,
opportunity to meet at maybe a conference or two, but I've never met anyone on my team, and I haven't met anyone at the company
oh,
outside of that first initial training. So I definitely relate
yeah,
to like you joined this program where your expectation was like you're going to be there every day in person. That's like
yeah.
I would be remote regardless, but like you have these
Mhm.
expectations and everything just completely changed. And I got to
Yeah.
hear a little bit about that. So Wes Boss, which probably a lot of people in here know, used to be an instructor. We talked about this a few minutes ago, and he
Mhm.
and Scott on the Syntax podcast had, sorry, what's her name from Juno?
Heather Payne, the
He-
CEO.
Okay, so had Heather Payne on to kind of talk about what the transition had been like, and now I'm just kind of making this association of like you're the people, you're the person, you're the group, you're that group that they were talking about of like having to switch to be completely virtual.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
It's crazy to think about, because like while you're in boot camp, you're talking to these people and you're thinking, how am I going to make these connections? Because one
mhm,
of the biggest appeal for a lot of Juno students is that there is a huge community in Juno, and we all connect with each other and become super close and do these really great activities. And you can't do that online. You can't go for lunch with your friend online and like go for a walk with them. But I ended up having some really great friends who I talk to every single day. And this is a shout out to Katie King. You know who you are. She is amazing. We talked every day, and it's so funny that maybe like 3 weeks in, I was like, wait a minute, how tall are you? Because I don't know how tall you are because I've never met you.
right.
And I was like, yeah, like I'm 5'4", and she's like, oh, I'm almost 6 feet tall, and I was like, what?
Oh wow,
So it's like when I meet her for the first time, it's gonna be like
a big
me
different.
all the way
Yeah,
here. Yeah. So it's just funny because like there's these little things that you miss from being in person, and um I just thought it was really interesting to experience that online, but I hope to meet my cohort mates really soon, but we'll
absolutely.
see.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've all got similar wishes of some person or people or group of people that we want to see. A
Yeah.
little kind of side note. So in Twitch, there is the ability if you set up your stream to accept things that people can redeem points for. They can basically redeem
Mm.
points that they kind of accrue by watching your stream. And if you set it up, you can offer them things that they can redeem for. One of them that people have done in the past is like a dab. So they could, like, if they
Mhm.
earn a certain amount of points, they could say, all right, I'm going to redeem a dab. And then I would have to do a dab. And with me being kind of new to Twitch and not really understanding some of that stuff, the way that happens is it like highlights the text. People in the stream are laughing because they know they remember
Oh
when
my
this
god.
happened, and so it highlights the text to show that a person redeemed something. Well, I didn't know that you could also redeem points to highlight a message so that it looks the same. So then people in the
Oh,
stream were just like spamming like, oh, redeem a dab, even though they didn't actually, there's no like setup for them to actually do that. They were just like making it look like it. So anyway, I got hacked, and just because of that, just out of fun, like I will do a dab. What, any chance? Like I'm putting you on the spot. Will you join me for a dab for
of
everyone?
course.
Yeah.
Oh
All
my
right.
gosh,
So
I will
if
dab.
everybody that's out there, maybe a little drum roll to yourselves, a little one here. Code Stacker has fake redeemed a dab too, and so we'll do a dab in 3, 2, 1, go.
A dab.
And you held it too. I didn't hold mine that long. And they
Oh,
also have this thing in Twitch of clipping where people can take a little snippet. So I apologize if people record that and then post that somewhere, but it's all out there for
that's
people to
fine.
see, and I think it's been fun anyway. So
Oh, I
um
was actually picturing you when you were saying that you got these multiple dabs just like this, like
yeah,
as hard as you
just
can,
going back
just
and
dabbing
forth.
back and
Yeah.
forth, like, okay, I got this, just like keep on
That's
going.
that's kind of how it was. Like they were spamming it, and I didn't do like a ton of them, obviously, because there's only so much you could do while you're actually trying to stream. But it was a pretty funny, like memorable day for me, and I think lots of people in the stream remember that as well.
I mean,
Um,
it's kind of exercise now, so you're sitting and
there you
you just
go.
keep moving your arms.
Yeah, when
There you
you're
go.
stranded inside with nothing else to do, you might
Yeah.
as well do some extra dabs. Which Naren Dev, who is in a lot of these streams, says thank you so much for the extra dabs. He's very appreciative of that, and I am too. So
You're
um,
welcome. It's
we
my
do
pleasure.
have first question from
Mm,
Scrawbill, who has also been in a lot of these streams before. And
mm.
she says, I've been curious how you grew your Twitter presence and has it helped your career so far? And this goes back to a lot of the stuff that we talked about the other day, which I'll grab a link to that YouTube video and throw it in the chat so y'all can go back and watch that as well. But yeah, so she's
Yeah.
asking how you grew your Twitter presence, because I think that's relatively new, like really new, right? With the start of your boot camp. And
Yeah.
then has it helped your
Mhm.
career so far?
Yeah. So we did touch up on this a bit, but I am more than happy to repeat basically. So with my Twitter account, I'll be totally honest, I didn't come in with like, okay, I have this game plan. I'm going to grow this account. It's going to skyrocket and I know exactly what I'm doing. What I did was I just came in and said, okay, this is my journey. And if anyone wants to join me, you can follow me here. And as the days went by, as a junior dev, wanted to connect with folks. And I created a blog series or a blog post that I'm turning into a series where I interviewed developers like Danny Thompson, like the CEO of my school, Heather Payne. I interviewed Raf and a couple of junior devs who are a couple of months ahead of me that already have jobs and they're doing really great. And that's how I got to know people, and that helped with growing my platform a little bit because people genuinely want to know me and they know that I genuinely want to know them. And that was kind of the start of my Twitter account. But since then, I just continue to share the projects I worked on in my bootcamp journey and some of my like little artwork that I've done. Like I really like doing digital art, and people seem to react well to that. So that kind of was the reason why it just keeps going up. And I'm super thankful that people are taking the time and interest to get to know me. And I hope that they realize that I'm trying to get to know you too. If you ever feel like I'm ignoring you, I promise you I'm not. I just realize that I need to sometimes take time to myself, but
Yeah.
I'll get to you, I promise.
Yeah, it's tough. I want to have extended conversations with lots of people, and I get people reaching out on LinkedIn, reaching out on Twitter with just kind of random questions and technical things. And one of the things that I've started to do is drive people to my Discord. I'm going to put a link to this in the chat, which is where. So here's one of
Mhm.
the interesting things, I guess, for me on YouTube. If I create a video and someone has a technical question about that video, I can respond to that person, but that really, like, that person in that comment is the only person that gets something out of it, right? Like there's no visibility for other people unless they're just like scrolling through the chat. So I really wanted to help drive those conversations to Discord where like we could have the conversation around that thing with other people and they can see it
Yeah.
and throw in other ideas and stuff, and not just be me responsible for helping like bring these people together and helping them kind of teach and learn, build, teach is the motto, like do all of that stuff
Yeah.
together. So I really enjoy driving people that way, but it's really tough. I mean, like so many people reach out in such a good way. Like there were several people from after our conversation the other day that reached out on LinkedIn just to connect. And I was like, hey, yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm really happy to connect. If you have any questions or anything, reach out to me. It's interesting that
Mhm.
you brought up kind of the balance of time,
Mhm.
and trying to like do taking time for yourself, because someone recently posted kind of talking about how valuable their time is, and if someone reaches out wanting to have a conversation, a 30-minute chat or something, to ask questions about whatever, they're charging for that time. and
Oh.
and I have debated about that in the past,
Mhm.
and at a certain point I think you just have to, like, I think we all want to do help as much as we can, but
Mhm.
at scale, like you get to a point where you just don't have enough time. So anyway, like her thing was that's what she does for people that she doesn't know, but she also takes time to have conversations with people she does.
Yeah.
And just kind of out of like wanting to help people. And so I've never charged for anything like that, but it was kind of interesting to hear that perspective of like at a certain point, it's just hard to manage all the incoming requests. So kind of same
Yeah.
as what you said. If you reach out and you don't get a response, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It may just be that it
Mhm.
like there's a lot of other things going on and that might just be tough to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really it's very new to me.
Mhm.
As you mentioned, this was a new account. I started it in May, and I'm at almost 7,500 followers since then. And I did not expect this at all. I didn't come in being like, yeah, this is going to
Yeah.
happen. But I'm happy it happened because it's led to, me meeting you and meeting Danny and meeting
Mhm.
so many great people. And I wouldn't change that at all, even though it's been a struggle to juggle it,
Sure.
especially during boot camp. That was interesting.
Absolutely.
Very interesting. Yeah.
That's one of the cool things, and you kind of mentioned this earlier, like you debated about whether or not you were going to postpone doing the boot camp, and you were like, I'm going to be at home anyway. I might as well take advantage of this time. And I've
Yeah.
gotten to meet a bunch of amazing people virtually, several people that are
Yeah.
here in the chat, several people that I've done streams with in the past, doing a stream with you.
Mhm.
Like this,
Yeah.
it's not the same as being in
No.
person, but it's also opened up the door to meet and have engagement with people that like I would have done a lot less of if we actually had stuff in person. Like now I'm much less
Yeah.
limited to the people that are just in my area, which is a great community
Mhm.
as well. But now I get to
Yeah.
do a lot more of this stuff virtually, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool. I'm taking a look at the chat just to make sure I didn't miss anything. We were talking about missing responding to
I
messages,
know.
and Scrawbill said she just remembered she didn't respond to a response that I sent to her on a tweet the other day. No worries, I don't take it personally. No
It's all
worries.
good.
Yeah. Um, all right. I don't think I missed any questions. Chat is moving along, which is great. This is really good. Glad so many people are here. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of curious, maybe on a technical side, maybe just on a logistical side. What was one of the hardest? Maybe one of both. What was one of the hardest things that you struggled with during the boot camp, or maybe a technical concept? Maybe it was
Mhm.
logistically being from home. Maybe it was staying motivated. Maybe it was like putting in the time and effort to
Mhm.
learn. Like any of those things. What were some of the things that you struggled with or were difficult for you during the boot camp?
Um, so something that I struggled with quite a bit was, uh, I guess, more of like my mental health, because most people have their boot camp experience in person and you're able to kind of feed off each other's energy. Like if I was having a bad day, maybe one of my boot campers would notice that and give me a shoulder to lean on.
Yeah.
Whereas if I was at home freaking out about a concept that just didn't make sense to me at the time, I was kind of alone, and I could message someone being like, "Hey, this is what happened to me today," and get that support, but it's just not the same.
Hmm.
And that was something that I kind of wish that I had more of an opportunity to like get that support and also give that support, because I don't exactly know what all my cohort mates went through because I couldn't see them. If we wanted to, we could have easily kept our cameras off all day. And even like during some of our classes, the instructors are talking all day and they want to hear something back, but it's kind of a tricky thing to balance keeping your mic on all day. If somebody was sneezing or coughing, it's a distraction um, to the actual learning, to the lesson. If that was the case.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit tricky, especially during the JavaScript and React times. I definitely felt the heat there. It was, whew,
Yeah,
we felt it.
that's fair enough.
Yeah, it was tricky.
Yep.
Hmm.
Um, and well, let me acknowledge something in the chat for 1 second. This is the like the balance of like trying to stay with you and also follow the chat.
Yeah.
Is Danny Thompson just like blew up with a bunch of tier 1 subs, which these are paid subscriptions in Twitch. So this is like
Oh,
him really investing in. He does this a lot. He's very supportive, obviously, in so many different ways, but especially on Twitch,
thank you,
of
Danny.
like investing back in the channels that he
Mm,
believes in and enjoys the content from. And I think Danny has been just a great example of people like giving back in a lot of different ways. So
yeah,
Danny, thank you for that, and thanks for all the things that you do, and for being here and hanging out. And we need to get maybe get Danny on for one of these sometime soon to talk more about his experiences. But thanks
yeah,
again for all of those subs and for the emotes and everything that are coming through. Super super cool.
yeah. Thank you,
Um,
Danny. Actually, because we're on the topic of boot camp and Danny,
yeah.
when I first started, I don't remember if Danny mentioned in the panel, but when I first started, I reached out to Danny for the blog interview. But before I did that, I went through my friend Raf, who then contacted Danny. And then Danny messaged me and said, "Why didn't you just message me?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, I didn't know. I didn't think you'd reply." But he got back to me super fast. And after we connected, he uh, actually ended up doing something really cool for my school where I ended up doing a student run lunch and learn, meaning
Hmm.
we all came together for a small little event during lunchtime. And Danny gave us a little talk, and it was super motivating because it was during our React week where we were learning React and feeling super stressed out.
Yeah.
And I was feeling it, I think, the first week after boot camp ended, like all the stress. And I watched that video again. And at the end, I was like, wow, I can do it.
Hmm.
Danny believes in me, and so many others believe in me. And it felt so great. So, again, Danny, thank you for everything you've done for me, for my school, and for so many others. Like, it's just awesome. Very
Absolutely.
motivational.
Yeah. And that's the kind of thing I like. I think as a developer community, we're doing a better job of sharing with people, being transparent, right? Like you go into a
Yeah.
boot camp and the promise is so big, right? Like transition your career in a few months, and like that's kind of
Yeah.
what you focus on. We
Mm.
forget that like this shit's hard. Like it's one of the
Yeah.
hardest things that people will ever do, but if you stay dedicated and you keep working on it and you keep asking questions and you keep finding people that you can learn from and work with, you'll get there. And at the end of the day, like you'll have like such an amazing feeling of like, look what I
Yeah.
did in a few months, that like
Mm.
lots of people have done it, but also so few people have done it like across the world. Like it's such an accomplishment that people, when you look back on, is it's just so monumental. It's huge. And I've always
Yeah.
been a fan of, I have a computer science degree, but I've always done a
Ooh.
lot of self-learning, and I kind of
Yeah.
resonate more with that than I do with people who have degrees. And I've just been so inspired by people who have gone through and done that sort of stuff. Um,
Mm.
we do, I think I missed one. Did I ask this question? Oh, I'm going way back now, so I apologize, Nair and Dev, for missing this. As far as Twitter, do you mostly post front end CSS type of tweets or back end related tweets too? And this is maybe another aspect of this is like, how focused are you on your tweets into a specific category? This is something for people that are out there. Like we got a question about like, what are your tips for growing your Twitter presence? And like everyone
Mm.
answered. And I was like, honestly, I just defer to these people because like I haven't had the growth that the other people have had. I've had a
Mm.
Twitter for 7 years, didn't take it that seriously until the last couple. But the amount of
Mm.
growth that Danny has had, that you've had, that Devin has had, like it's just it's way way bigger than mine. So anyway, like I guess general
Yeah.
question is how concentrated are you in terms of like these are the specific types of things that I'm going to tweet about?
For my tweets, it really revolves around how I'm feeling, which sounds super cliche, but it's true. I wake up and I don't think about calculating my tweets in advance. I
Sure.
usually just kind of go with the flow. For languages, I focus more on front end because I'm a front end developer.
Hmm.
I'm not going to give you advice on C sharp because I know nothing yet. I mean, maybe one day I will,
Sure.
but I'm just going to focus on one thing at a time, especially because I have ADHD and anxiety. So it's kind of hard to juggle all these things at the same time. So focusing on front end is key for me right now. And I love seeing what other people post. So when I see, for example, someone is posting about CSS art, which has been something I've had my eye on for a very long time. I'm seeing like, like my friend Cass and my friend Annie on Twitter, and they're doing crazy CSS art. It's like
Hmm.
amazing. And I was just like ready for the time to just jump on it and then post about it because I want to share that with others too. I want to be like, hey, this is what I can do, and you could do it too because I just did a boot camp not that long ago and I was able to create this.
Yep.
It just takes a little bit of research. And the other thing is like in terms of like tweeting content, sometimes I get a little bit worried that I share too much with people because I will share a picture of my face or a workout that I'm doing. And it's like, was that oversharing? But that's actually who I am. I overshare people anything and then realize maybe I shouldn't have said that. But
No, I think
it's again
yeah, no, go
me.
ahead,
It's just
sorry.
who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think it's important for people to see you as a person. Like I've always had this thing, if I listen to music, right? I might like
Mm,
music and that's kind of it. Like if I don't necessarily know anything about the artist,
yeah.
I hear the song, I like the song, I listen to it, that's fine. When I start to learn more about the artist and it starts to kind of put together like here's what has influenced their music and maybe like oh when they talk about this thing in their music, here's what they're actually talking about. When I can make those associations, it makes me that much more interested in following the artist as an artist versus just like an
Yeah.
individual song. So I think having a
Hmm.
part of your personality is definitely really important. And it seems like the biggest key for people is I forget like there's different phrases, but sharing as you learn. Like as you learn
Mm,
stuff, share that thing. And I
yeah.
said this the other day, no matter how simple something is that you know or that you learned and how you may not think anyone else needs to hear that, someone out there doesn't know that thing yet. Like someone else doesn't
Yep.
know it. So you can share everything and it might be one person, it might be few, it might be 100, but like those
Hmm.
people are going to get something out of it. So it's almost worth like you can be strategic, but just share the things that you learn along the way.
It's so true because I recently started giving back to the school and mentoring
Hmm.
a couple of my cohort mates actually, and some grads from before us. And I was helping someone on Monday night, I believe. And she was doing a project that I was doing in November, something that in November I told myself, well, that's it. I'm not going to be a developer. I can't do this little project. So clearly this is not for me. But
Yep.
I felt it in my, as cheesy as this is, because I'm a cheesy person, I felt it in my heart and was like, no, I do like this. This is something I want to do. And even though I got a lot of help with it, it was the reason why today I know what to do for this project. And I was
Yep.
able to help her. And it was such a great feeling to finally give back because the whole time I was thinking to myself, I'm never going to be able to give back because I'm getting all this help. And every time I asked my community, can I pay you for your time? Can I give you money because you're teaching me?
Hmm.
This is important. And they're like, no, you can maybe give me a coffee one day. And even then, all my mentors have been like, I don't want the coffee. I
Yep.
just want you to pass it along one day. And I'm finally here, and it feels great to just help someone with something so small, um, because it's the small steps that lead to the bigger strides, the bigger steps.
Yep.
So
And I
yeah.
think appreciating those small wins is really important too. Like I think people get bogged down in like the long term, like I haven't done X yet.
Mm,
But think about all
yeah.
the things that you have learned and also the idea of sharing the stuff you learned also helps reinforce for you how many things you've learned. Like it's kind of a
Yeah.
positive reinforcement for yourself to share that thing to
Hmm.
then be able to reflect yourself and kind of see what you've done. A couple of
Yeah,
positive
absolutely.
comments for you. I don't. So this is from Smoshus Dev.
Oh,
Says, do you know?
Shonda.
Okay, cool. Says you're
I
the
know her.
best. You're incredibly helpful and so kind, which is awesome. Um, a couple of people have left the stream and they said really positive things about it as they were going. They want to see the rest of it
Thank
later
you.
on when this gets posted. Um, got a comment from Erisham. Sorry if that's not pronounced right, but thank you for bringing on Row. I think bringing on newer developers is just as awesome as bringing on experienced ones. I absolutely agree. this is one of the reasons why teaching, I think, and just engaging is so impactful for me because like
Mhm.
talking to people who have a totally different perspective on things actually helps me not take for granted the things that I've already experienced and know. Like I have to the conversation just changes when you have somebody that's new to it because you bring up a perspective.
Mhm.
It's like, wow, I've never thought about it that way, or I haven't thought about it that way in a long time to now I kind of like
Yeah.
change the way that I think about things now. Another comment from Rail2 that this was a little while ago, so sorry I'm a little behind on chat. Is talking about the mental health, and
Mm,
Rail 2 says they are a mentor for an online remote boot camp, and the mental health issue is something we've noticed. Now they have a daily catch up call that anyone can join for a chat, and I think it's like you have to, and you have to be more sensitive to it. And that's one of the
yeah.
things that I taught a boot camp last year, and that's one of the biggest struggles that people have is you go down this rabbit hole of like if you start to struggle, you get embarrassed to ask questions, and then you don't ask
Yeah.
questions, so you fall further behind, and then you're further
Mhm.
behind, so you don't want to ask questions. And it's the
Mhm.
snowball effect where like you kind of are just working yourself out of where you want to be. Like at a certain point, like wherever you are, that's where you are. And you gotta kind of put in the effort and ask the questions and figure out the things to get to whatever that next thing is. And a lot of it's just being transparent with yourself. But a lot of that responsibility comes on the mentors and the teachers and instructors to say it's okay to not know and it's okay to ask and to really encourage and look for those questions that people are too scared to ask at the time.
Yeah. But even you saying that a lot of that is on the mentors,
Hmm.
one of the first things that I thought of is because, okay, we just hit a pandemic, which is something that nobody has experienced this bad. And my instructors are now in a position where they have to juggle their own mental health and our mental health to check and see if we were okay. And my first concern was, oh my God, how are they doing? They have
Sure.
to teach a whole boot
Yeah.
camp to 40 people they've never met, never seen, have no idea how they tick, how they move, how they laugh, nothing. And it was a really tough position for everyone, I think. But like even on that note, it would have been really nice to have those like check-ins like every
Mhm.
day because we had I think like something called a stand-up room every Friday. We would talk with our like I think six cohort mates, and we would talk about our experience of the week. Like we had like a checklist to basically go through, but I would have had rather had it be a rotating group of people every week
Mm,
where we checked in on each other and was
sure.
like, how are you doing? And that's the other thing when we had these moments where we went into I don't know if you've went into a breakout room in Zoom, but essentially the person who owns the Zoom room will assign people into different rooms so they have like a private sub chat. And we sometimes just ended up talking to see how we were doing or feeling because that was something we didn't have a chance to do. We didn't have a chance to just like lean to the next person and be like, hey, do you know what's going on, and have them be like, no, I have no idea what's going on.
And
We didn't get that.
that's one of the most encouraging things is just knowing that other people are confused too. Because that's what a lot of
Yeah.
people get confused and they go in this bubble of like, well, shit, I'm the only one. And it's like, no, like these people are struggling. Like everybody kind
Yeah.
of needs each other.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
one kind of serious note on here. I just want to acknowledge it because it was personal for me from Joe Mart, who I don't know if we've met in a stream before, but
Mm,
Joe, assuming Joe is actually, I guess I don't know if it. I guess you can't assume Joe is male or female. Anyway, person Joe, to not
mm,
assume, is referencing my dog Padfoot, who we put to sleep
mm.
on Wednesday. That was super personal. That really sucked. That's been a tough couple of days. I've got one of my dogs back here, so we've got two more at
Yeah.
home that we spend a lot of time with. But Joe, thank you. I really appreciate that. It has really sucked. Joe said that they lost his or her dog, male. Okay, so you clarified his dog back in October of 2019. So you know how it feels. Had him since 2009. Yeah, Padfoot I got when I was in middle school, and Padfoot is a
Mhm.
Harry Potter character name if you're not familiar with that. And this was like prime time me, like heads down in Harry Potter books like all the time. So anyway, yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I really do. Thanks for the words of encouragement. Um, yeah,
Yeah. I'm sorry too.
yeah,
I already reached
we
out, but
talk. Yeah,
it is hard.
yeah.
Yeah. My partner, I think I talked a bit, had a dog named Sparkles, and
Mhm.
he got her when he was 7, and he's an only child, and she was with him his
Yeah.
whole life.
Right.
Um, I don't want to get emotional, but
I know,
we put
right?
her down in 2016. It
Yep.
hurts. It's still like to this day, like we watched like her puppy videos and just sat there and just cried together.
Yep.
It's hard. It's
I
really, really hard.
I had so it ended up being the day of the panel that we did, and literally like during the day, my eyes were like so bloodshot and red. And
Oh,
my wife and I think we went for a run, and I came back and took a shower, and I think I looked okay. I don't know if anyone could tell, but it was I had been doing my fair share of crying that day too. And
oh,
I think like
you
maybe
looked good. It's okay, but
yeah. Well,
yeah,
I think maybe the benefit of sharing that on stream is like we're all people, and like we might struggle in a technical sense, but we all have stuff that's going on family wise, personal life wise.
yeah,
There's always something, and just thinking about mental health, like you always kind of have to pay attention to yourself and where you are. And if you need a break, take a break. If you need other people to lean on and have conversations with, reach out. Like you never know who's going to respond, right? And kind of be that friend for
yeah.
you in the future. I think one of the
Well,
coolest things that I noticed on Twitter was I posted
yeah,
about Padfoot, and like you sent me a message, other people sent messages, people in here commenting, which is really cool. But the
mhm,
number of like positive comments and Twitter was so cool because these are like most of these people I've never even met in person. I know them
yeah,
online, but to have so much support that way was really, really cool too.
yeah. Um, well, speaking on the mental health note, um, just to throw this out there, I've been working on a side project with a couple developers, two from my school, Celeste and Tony, and one who I have not met,
Hmm,
somebody named Sarar from Norway.
cool.
And we are trying to create a web application where it will be for a mental health group that we're planning on creating on Twitter and perhaps on Discord or Slack. It's just basically to have developers reach out to other developers at any time of the day to be like, hey, I experienced this today because of X, Y, and Z. Is
Hmm.
anyone there to give me advice? Because something that seems to revolve in this community is people aren't 100% aware of what mental health is. I had somebody tell me that because of my article, they only then knew that they had ADHD. And I was like, wow, that's a lot, you know, and I
Hmm.
wish that there was a way for you to know sooner. But I hope that this is an opportunity for people to come together and support one another, because it's not easy, especially, you know, we're all in lockdown and the work is hard. But if we're able to support each other in an open community, in an open, safe space, I think it'd be really, really good. So I'll
Absolutely.
keep people posted when that's up. Yeah.
Yeah, please. I think Eddie might have been asking if this project was open source yet. I think the answer is no.
Mm-mm.
But you will certainly be sharing when that is ready to be shared. And so that's
Yeah.
where go and follow Ro on Twitter. It's probably the best place to kind of keep up to, yeah, little shout out there
Yeah.
to keep up to date with that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know where this comment is coming from. The question is, but can you reverse a linked list? I'm assuming that's kind of like a joke. I don't know where the what what that's referring to. Um, a little bit of we've got Arash is in the chat who I maybe didn't pronounce the name right correctly, but was kind of introducing themselves. Self-taught senior developer, and it's so encouraging and inspiring to see developers like Ro growing like this. I think these are these are the kind of people that other people want to hear from, to know like
Mm.
to know that it's possible, right? Like you go through this boot camp and you get in the middle and it's so freaking hard. Maybe you
Yeah.
just need someone that you can look at to say, all right, like that person did it, I can do it too.
Yeah.
Like you maybe need that positive reinforcement from someone externally. And so I like,
Yeah.
in a really cool way, like maybe you're that person for a bunch of people in the stream, maybe just one, maybe it's people on Twitter, whatever it is. Like
I hope
yeah,
so.
I know, right? I think,
Yeah.
I absolutely think that you would be. So, um,
I think one thing that I went through before I started the boot camp, because as you know, the pandemic had already started. So I was just at home, kind of like pacing, like, when is this going to start? But something that kind of helped ease my nerves was seeing something on Instagram from Juno, from the school I went
hmm,
to.
yep.
They would have these like takeovers, these Instagram takeovers, where someone from the school or someone who graduated does like a everyday life like check in. They're like, this is how my morning starts. This is what I do for work. And they have a Q&A at the end. So they would be like, ask me anything. And it was really helpful because I was like, what was your experience like at boot camp? And they told me everything. They just kept going and going. And I was like, oh my God, that was great. That
Yeah,
was so good to hear. So if any of you are curious about boot camp and you need some sort of advice or some sort of comfort, come to me. I will help you.
absolutely.
Usually on Twitter. And if
Yeah.
my DMs aren't open, just direct, like, don't be shy. Just be like, Ro the coder, please
Please
DM me.
help. Send help.
Yeah. I mean, be more specific because if you just say please, I'll be like, okay,
Yeah.
please
Well,
what?
so that's like, this is kind of a side note, but just like kind of etiquette and that sort of stuff is be specific if you have a question of what you're looking for. Like I get lots of things that are just like, hey, and I'm like,
Yeah.
so I have to go through the
Hi.
process of saying like, hi, and I don't want to sound blunt, but it's like, all right, just like
Yeah.
tell me what you want, and we'll like have
Yeah.
the conversation, right? So if you do reach out to someone, be specific. Scott
Yeah.
Spence in here says hi as a joke in response to
Hi.
that. A couple of people are posting resources about mental illness. One is open sourcing mental illness. Who is Rail? Now I'm starting to wonder who Rail 2 is.
Reveal
I
yourself.
I thought it might have been someone from the Memphis community, but I don't think it is.
Mm,
Anyway, so got osmehelp.org, which is in the chat, and then Scott Spence sent uh, Chingu.io for people wanting to work on projects with distributed teams. So
nice.
thanks for sharing those resources in there. There's one question I had based on something you said, and now I'm like blanking on what it was. Anyway, so if you have other questions, especially if I missed one, throw it in the chat. Um,
Yeah.
do you want to talk a little bit about kind of oh, this person knows the person that I'm thinking of. That's what it is. So Rail 2, I was thinking of Joe Ferguson, who, yes, that's who I was thinking about, and you know each other. Cool. Nice to make the connection. Um, do you want to talk about like what you're working on now? So I think you've got like a freelance project that you're working on, and you're searching
Mhm.
for sounds like full-time positions, specifically in front end development.
Yeah. Yeah, that's correct. So right now I'm working on a client project. It's just a very basic landing page for a food truck company
Hmm.
that is up and running slowly. So I'm not going to post it yet, but I will soon. And that was a really interesting experience because they're very aware that I was junior, so they were very patient when I had moments where I was like, I actually don't know how to do this one thing right now, and they were like, that's fine, learn it and then continue. And
Yeah.
then I did, and it was great. It was
Yep.
perfectly fine. And so that was really cool because I got to experience what it's like to provide my own work. It was great to see my code on a fully functional website for somebody else, not for me. And besides that, my side project with the mental health app has been pretty great.
Hmm.
And as I mentioned before, I do have that web application that I made during my first JavaScript and jQuery app in Bootcamp. And that one is called Battle of the Babies. And I want to upgrade that because it's just essentially a basic rock paper scissors game, but I wanted to create extra functions where the babies can like punch. So if you click the button, it'll punch. Like it maybe not to animate, but just to be like, oh, you deducted health. And I wasn't sure of how to do that with like a week span to do it.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have enough time. And now that I do have some wiggle room during job hunting and networking and getting to know people, I want to make that happen because I think it'd make the game so much more fun. And, having a high score where everybody who plays has to compete to get to the,
Yeah.
to the leaderboard. I think that'd be super fun.
Yeah. That is. So
The
that's one of the.
possibilities are
I
endless.
know, right? Yeah, and that's so several points. Like possibilities are endless. If you take a course and inside of a
Mm,
course you build something, don't put that on your portfolio. Take the things you learn and take advantage of the infinite possibilities and like build your own thing with those skills. This is something I talk about a lot.
mm,
And this is obviously like this is on screen for people. This looks badass just looking at it. And I'm right off the bat curious, like for the animated flames, how are you doing that?
mm.
How did you do that?
So that's actually an animated GIF
Okay.
or GIF, GIF,
Yep.
Again, Paris
Whatever.
mentioned this. We're not having this
Yeah.
debate. GIF, GIF.
Yeah. Real
Tomato,
time
tomato.
debate. GIF or GIF. Let us know.
I won't argue with whatever's right. I'll just accept it how it is.
There you go.
But yeah, so that's just a running animation in the
Okay.
background. And I think that yeah, that's another thing to look at. Now that I'm playing around with CSS animations, maybe I could just code that myself and like have it in the same style, but make it so that the flames keep going up in the same way. Like that would be super cool to do. And I love like the video game arcadey pixel art type of stuff. Like I think it's awesome.
Yeah. I'm going through this right now. I'm going to choose
Yeah.
Baby Yoda,
Yes. Good.
select this, and start. Oh, this is so cool. Start fight. And then, oh no, you
So
lose.
it's
How did
rock,
I?
paper, scissors. And it's
Okay.
just a
So,
randomized.
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And you can't see me, unfortunately. I need to figure out a better way to share my screen with. Yes.
That's okay. I can see it in my head.
Yeah,
There's
you
some
know what
sort
it
of
looks like, right?
figure gamey background. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what it looks like.
That's so cool. And
Um,
this is where I think developing skills in development and programming meets creativity. And this is where you
yes.
take like you're just kind of you're trying out some stuff, but you're also doing this in a way this is just something fun that you wanted to do, right? And your like
Yeah.
ultimate creativity comes out because that's the beauty of being a developer is you can create whatever the hell you want to. And I talked about this the other day, you kind of transition from being someone that just consumes things, like you just kind of accept this is how it is. And now you're turning yourself into a creator where you look at something, you're like, I could create that, or I have this vision, I can go and create it myself. And that's one of the most
Yeah.
empowering feelings I think there is. And one of the reasons that like going through a boot camp or just self-teaching or just learning how to write code is so empowering.
Yeah. I mean, like a lot of people who are like on the creative side, like people I know personally who are artists or like to paint, they have seen some of my works and they were like, so tell me a little bit about
Yeah.
this
So tell
coding
me about
stuff. And I'm
that.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, do you see that you can do two things and make it super cool?
Hmm.
Because that's what it made me realize. Like I saw on like one of those Instagram takeovers on Juno, one of the bootcamp grads was like, the best thing about coding to her was that you can take the creativity and take the logic and you mash it together and create something incredible. You create something that is from you and
Hmm.
something that other people can appreciate,
Yep.
which has been incredible to see. Like I remember when I was working on this project and getting the little bits to go by, like I got a lot of help because I needed the support. I wasn't entirely sure how to get it done. We had just learned. And so getting that support from all those people was awesome. But once I was able to understand what I was doing, my heart started to skip a beat. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God. The when one of the babies started to render, my friend Tej was helping me with that. I was like, it's there, it's working. And it was just like so fantastic to put it together.
Yeah, I mean, it's the small wins, right? Like, it's just so easy for people to get caught up in what they can't do and not focus on the things like how incredible it is to just do that. Like that's a tiny
Yeah.
piece, right? But the progression of doing that, then adding and then adding and then adding, that's what it's all
Yeah.
about. We've got a comment in here from Actac. Best part of being a developer is seeing your work go live. That and the money. And in fact, the money is much more thrilling. Money is definitely thrilling, but like the ability to create something and have that be used by someone else, that's what I want. I want to build stuff that other people use and I can share with other people. We got a
Yeah,
question
the
that I
money will
missed. Oh,
come.
go ahead. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. The money will come,
Hmm.
but as long as you're having fun and you're truly enjoying what you're doing, then
Yep.
you're in the right place.
Yep. And one of the things, just kind of the idea of tying that creativity with writing code, there's so much more to being a developer and getting a job as a developer than just writing code. Like people want to
Mhm.
hire people that have other skill sets. One of the things that for me, when I came out of college, I double majored with computer science and Spanish being
Oh,
completely
cool.
unrelated to computer science. But when I was interviewing with Microsoft, they needed someone to fill a spot in South Florida. They weren't looking for someone out of college, but since I spoke Spanish and they were looking for someone to fill that spot in that area, they said, "Hey, would you want to go down to Fort Lauderdale, Miami?" And I said, "Absolutely." And I started my career at
Yeah.
Microsoft. So you never know, like, what of your external skill sets that seem unrelated could lead to something big in your career. And a
Oh, that's
question,
awesome.
yeah, I think it's cool to share just because you never know, right? A
Yeah.
question I missed earlier is how do you justify or even recover from years of experience learning after quitting and rejoining the dev industry as self-taught. I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So I'm thinking like either you feel like you haven't, like you're kind of behind in experience, like other people have been doing it longer, or maybe
Mhm.
you started a while ago, you took a long break, and now you're kind of starting from scratch with self-learning again. So I guess the general thing to you would be, I would
I
it
think it's
like,
a second.
do you feel like you're behind? Do you feel like you have catching up to do compared to other people, or are you just doing your thing and you're doing the best you can?
I'm just doing my thing the best I can, but I think to kind of add to that question, uh, I actually almost gave up on code entirely in 2018 because the
Hmm,
first language I tried to take a jab at was Python, and it scared the heebie-jeebies out of me. I
fair enough.
was like, I had a friend who was a genius. He is in engineering at Ryerson University in Toronto. And I remember I was like, hey, I want to be a developer. Can you teach me how to code? And like he would sit next to me and be like, okay, try to type this out. And I'm staring at the computer. I'm like, I don't know. And he
Right.
was like, try again. And I kept going, try again, try again. And it turned me so far off. I was like, I
Hmm.
can't do this. And then um, because I struggled a little bit with the self teaching, like making this strict schedule, believing that I could do it. I really didn't believe I could do it. I just kind of let it slide or be like, oh, you know what? I feel like binge watching Netflix all day after a
Yep.
long day of work because my work before this was I worked at a restaurant and like made my way up to manager eventually, and it was physically exhausting. I was doing upwards of 25,000 to 30,000 steps per day, and I was
Oh,
working there
wow.
5 times a week. Yeah, so at the end of the day, I was my energy was spent, and I was like, yeah, I'll code tomorrow. I kept doing that, and finally, when I eventually made that decision that I need to try again, I started slow on Codecademy. I did HTML and CSS, the very, very basics. I wish I knew about some other resources that I know now, but that's okay because I mean, it's all good now.
Yep.
But yeah, I almost gave up and I'm really glad that I didn't.
Well, that's what like Danny talks about this a lot, is like the only thing you guarantee if you do give up that you'll never make it to where you wanted to be, right? Like
Yeah.
you might struggle for years, you might struggle for weeks, months, days, you might have like just a very tough time, but if you give
Mhm.
up, you're definitely not going to make it, right? And it's a
Yeah.
hard thing to balance of like, how do you stay motivated when you struggle? And I think you just kind of think about the end result. Just know that people are going through it too. Like it's not, it might be easier for some people, but it's just
Yeah.
not that easy. It's tough. And if you have the will, if you have the drive, if you have the passion for it, you'll get there. And Danny also
Mhm.
talks about like priorities. Like people say like, oh, I don't have enough time to do X, Y, and Z. Well, it's like you have time to do other things in your life. So those things you're kind of deciding for yourself. Those things are a higher priority. What if you looked at the things that you do on a day to day basis and you decided those things are less of a priority? This is what I actually want to make my priority, and you will get those things done. Um,
Yeah.
Instead, like you'll find time for things
Mhm.
if they become a
True.
priority for you.
Yeah. It's so true. Like with my journey in 2018 was basically like on off, I can't do this, I should try again, for like I'd have like 4 months
Hmm.
time where I just don't even look or think about code.
Yep.
And my partner would be like, hey, do you want to check out your code stuff? I saw you were kind of interested. And I was like, no, I don't want the anxiety right now. But in 2019, I started to consider it a little more because I was like, you know what? I know that this restaurant job is not for me forever. I do it well, but I could apply myself elsewhere where I use my creativity and learn something that I find valuable, that is something that I could continue to grow and expand upon. And so when I was starting to look at boot camps, I got discouraged again because I saw the prices and some of them were like I think the first boot camp I spoke to was like, yeah, this is going to be like $12,000 up front. And I was like,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
tough.
even. So I was like, you know what, this is not going to happen. But Juno, thankfully, towards the end of the year, started something called ISA,
Hmm.
where it's essentially like a loan. So I will start paying them back once I make my first 55,000 as a developer, which
Yeah.
is really relieving because I was able to be like, you know what? Yes, this is something that I've never done before. And yes, this could be a risk, but I am super passionate about this. I want to do it. I have to do this. And no regrets.
Yep.
The money, I'll pay it off later, but you know what? I don't care. Like it'll get paid, but the best thing is that I got these skills. I met all these people and I'm so happy.
Yeah, it just opens up like your trajectory, your career opportunities from now on
Mhm.
is so great. I mean, it's just a wonderful um wonderful industry to be in, and
Yeah.
you just have so many opportunities after developing those skills. We had a comment from Swarlow. Something that really helped me after a couple of months of my boot camp, I offered to help other students after learning hours, and after 1 month, I was offered a mini job doing so. Um,
Oh,
that also then went on to say now has our first developer job since 1 year. Awesome. That's awesome. Um, Also, someone else in Different Ghost commented that teaching is definitely the best way to learn. And that's, again, I talk about this all the time, like learn, build, teach. I spend a lot of time learning. I spend a lot of time building stuff. And then by teaching other people how to do things, I help reinforce the things that I thought I knew, or I
mhm.
realized that I didn't understand things as well as I thought I did, and I have to go back
Yeah.
and like really spend some more time to make sure that I'm able to articulate what things mean and how they work. Like before I can actually teach people, I have to understand those things for myself and be able to communicate them to other people. So yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think it kind of it's a feel good thing, but it's also just really helpful for you and for the other people. Just
It
had
kind of like,
Go ahead.
sorry, continue.
No, I just given a shout out to Chris Demars who just joined the chat, who's Salt and Burnham in there. So, but go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say something for me is I love to help people and I love to teach people. So before I was even officially a manager, because at my restaurant, because that was not my plan, I was constantly like, "Hey, did you know that if you do it like this, it'll help you?" And like, "Hey, if you do this, it'll help you." And I was always just giving in little tips here and there and just trying to teach people. And I even before that, when I was a lifeguard, that was my first job. I
Nice.
was also a swim instructor. So I used to teach little kids how to swim. And that was the best feeling to see that this 5-year-old kid is swimming because of something I
Hmm.
verbally told them. And now that I'm a developer, I want to continue giving back in that way because it's really rewarding to see people grow. And it's like, hey, I helped them do that. And they are doing so amazing. And that makes me feel so happy. It's just I always wanted to be a teacher, and I hope that I can eventually teach people in this community because it's so rewarding. It's great. I
And I
love
think you're
it.
already doing so much of that. Like you may not formally think of it as teaching, but every tweet that you share is teaching someone. Again, like everything that you know, someone else doesn't know, and someone else
Mhm.
benefits out there from it. So you're already
Yeah.
doing that, and that's what like. Well, one, Danny is blowing up again with some subs and stuff. He's sharing those out with people. Danny, thanks for continuing to do
Thank
that. I
you,
really appreciate it. It's great to have
Danny.
you in the chat, and great to be able to provide that for people. And other
Yeah.
people in the chat are like, "Oh my gosh, Danny is like blowing it up in here in a good way." That's super cool. Thank you, Danny. Um, I wonder if a few people in the chat that I haven't seen chat yet. Kaylee maybe is here, and Brian Robinson. If you're here in the chat, say hello. I hadn't seen anything from you, but I'd love to hear from you if you're here.
You'll get
And
a double wave from me.
there you go, double. That should be like that should be something people can redeem in the future. Is the old double wave?
Some people really don't like it, but you know what? I'm here for it.
I don't know. I don't know what problem people would have with a double wave.
Maybe that it's like dorky, but I'm kind of
That's
dorky,
yeah.
so
That's what we're supposed to be. I think.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah. 15 subs from Danny for the people that are here. Um,
Thank you,
it's pretty sweet. Code Stacker just redeemed a double wave, so one more double wave for Code Stacker. There it is. Nice.
Danny.
Mark Railton, power just quit out for the third time today. Not good. That sucks. Yeah.
Aw,
Hopefully the power stays on. Um,
fingers crossed.
I know, right? I did want to give one comment here for the people in the stream, especially if you're new. If you enjoy the conversation, I do something like this, either kind of a conversation or a technical one, once every Friday, and then a one or two during the week of just kind of hacking around on stuff. So go ahead and follow the channel if you haven't already. And then also, I want to give a shout out to the Auth0 channel. So I am a developer advocate at Auth0, and I get on the Auth0 Twitch channel 2 times a week or so also. So if you want to catch more of me being on stream, you can follow this channel. You can follow the Auth0 channel that I just put a link to in the chat, as well as other people on my amazing team. I get on there, and we have kind of meetup talks every couple of weeks with our Avocado Lab episodes that you should check out as well. So go ahead and check out the Auth0 channel if you hadn't already. You got
Did you
another
say
positive
avocado?
Avocado Lab. So if you haven't ever heard or recognized this, developer advocates, a lot of them have kind of embraced, like, instead of advocate, they do like avocado. So you'll see like developer avocado, or people just use
Oh, I
like an
love
avocado
that.
logo.
Yeah.
So the idea with these on the Auth0 Twitch channel was to basically give people a platform to do kind of meetup talks or practice their
Mhm.
talks while we don't have as many in-person meetups. And so this was kind of like the advocate, the avocado, like just the time for people to do that. So
Avocado kits. No, it doesn't work. I tried.
there's lots of things you can do with it.
Mhm.
By the way, you got a positive comment from, trying to go back and find it, from Tracy Jane. Hello, Tracy, and thanks for being here.
Mhm.
Amazing story, row Twitter fan over here. So you got a
Oh,
fan on Twitter.
you get a double wave.
Then Thor August said, I think this is German. Let me know if this is right. Danke für or for. And I think that means thanks for. And then the lightning thing after that. I was trying to learn some German for a while at some point,
Oh,
and I haven't done it
cool.
in a couple of months. But my wife's family her mom is full German but doesn't speak any German.
Mm.
Her Omi, her
Oh,
grandmother, came to the United States from Germany at the age of 16, like by herself.
wow.
She had, I think
Oh
there
my
was a
gosh.
host family like waiting for her, and this was back in like the 50s maybe. So it was before cell phones and like
Mhm.
GPS and stuff, and somehow
That's so
she made it
scary.
work. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, when I hear stories like that, it's just like, oh my gosh, like my mom did that when she was
Hmm.
like 21 or something. She just
Wild.
packed
Yeah.
everything from Iran and came to Canada, knew nothing. She could speak English and barely had money. And now we're here,
Yep.
born and raised in Toronto, Ontario. It just, I'm 27. I don't plan on grabbing everything I know
And
and
up and
hopping into a
moving real quick.
plane.
Yeah.
That's
It it's
wild.
hard. It's hard to imagine. I mean, some of it, like, well, I would say it was different times, but I feel like it was even, it was just so much harder then. Like, at least now you could have a phone, right? And you could like
Yeah.
look up where you're going or call somebody if you needed to. At that point, like,
Yeah.
she just came over on a boat, and like, I guess people like held a sign and were like, "Hey, we're your host family." I don't know. Like, I can't even imagine what that was like.
Like 16 years old.
Hmm.
At 16 years old, I couldn't even pluck my eyebrows properly. How am I supposed to move somewhere? It's insane.
uh, it's wild. Code Stacker,
Yeah.
who is on YouTube, by the way. If you haven't checked out Code Stacker on YouTube, you definitely should. Says his mom is German. Code Stacker, I'm wondering if you speak any German, and if so, throw it in the chat.
I don't know any
Um,
German.
you don't know any German? Yeah,
Mm-mm.
I I recognize a decent amount of words, I think, but I like actually speaking would not be able to do very much. Let's see.
I know some Farsi, which is Persian,
Mm,
and I know some French because they teach that in the schools in Toronto,
makes
which
sense.
is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I recognize some French words mainly just from like Spanish. And so
Mhm.
I went to Paris a few years ago on a work trip, and it was kind of like practicing and picking up some words while I was there, and just like
Yeah,
recognize some just from Spanish.
that's great.
Arpan, who's in the chat, says that he knows like 3 Indian languages. And I always thought that was really interesting too, for people that like just grew up speaking multiple languages that were spoken in their country, I guess.
Mhm.
And a lot of people grow up, and that's just how it was. Like, they know two, three, four different languages, and that's just what they got used to. And that's kind of what they had to do to
Yeah.
speak to maybe like a different parent, or like different people in their family. Or like one person I met from Auth0, was from Argentina, went to a German school in Argentina, I think. And so
Mhm.
she would like speak Spanish all day at home and then speak German all day at school. And that was just like once you get used to doing that every day, like it just becomes second nature.
Yeah, that's actually kind of like a somebody in I think cohort 28, which is the cohort behind mine. They did something called a talent show where every Friday we do a talent show for people to show off some of their talents, like the people inside of the cohort. And like for me, I showed off like some of my drawing skills on
Hmm.
digital art, which was super fun. And this person talked about their native language, which was Hakka. And something that's interesting, Hakka is, if I'm wrong, somebody scream at me and I'll stop. But Hakka is a language spoken in China somewhere.
Okay.
And the interesting thing that I learned from that was uh, somebody in China who speaks, okay, one person speaks Mandarin, one person speaks Cantonese, another person speaks Hakka. They can't understand each other when they speak, but if they write down the words, they can all understand each other.
Hmm.
And I thought that was really cool because it's like they can't talk to each other, but oh, grab a paper and a pen, and yeah, now we know what you're saying. That's so cool.
That is really interesting. And I've heard a lot of people not being able to speak a language, but they could understand it. So if you spoke to them, they could understand what you were saying, but they couldn't
Mm,
necessarily speak it back to you. And I would
yeah.
say, like, for as much Spanish as I know, I would say I'm a fluent reader. I'm actually reading
Mhm.
um, The Lost Symbol, which is part of the Da Vinci Code series in Spanish right now,
So cool.
but
Yeah.
I understand much more than I would be able to say back. So it's kind of
You know
interesting
what
that
I
there's
think
a
it is?
difference in those two.
It's a confidence thing, I think, because my my Farsi isn't the greatest. I wasn't able to fully learn because my brother has autism
Hmm.
and he was nonverbal for the first 6 years, and now he will never shut up. But I love him. He talks all the time. He's like
Yeah.
the star of the show. Everyone knows my brother. He's like super popular,
Okay.
and like we would walk down the street and like people who are just standing there were like, "Oh, hey, Rompton." I'm like, "How?"
How do you
And
know these people?
he knows everyone. And because in the beginning, the doctor said, hey, if you want him to do some speech therapy, you're going to have to choose one language. And so my parents chose
Mm,
English because we're in Canada.
okay.
And because we're very close in age. I was 4 at the time. My brother would have been three and a half. No, not
Okay.
3.5. He would have been like 3 years old.
Okay.
And so, with that said, my Farsi isn't the greatest, but I do understand a lot more than I speak.
Right.
But when I'm feeling confident in myself, I could actually hold a
It comes out.
conversation. And I
Yeah.
think it's so weird. I'm like, why don't I feel like this all the time?
I've definitely noticed that myself with Spanish and like something a little bit similar. My mother-in-law doesn't speak any German. Her brother,
Mm.
who passed away several years ago, they grew up teaching, like speaking to him in German in the house. And he got made fun of when he didn't speak English that well, or he would confuse
Oh,
words in school. So they decided after that that they weren't going to teach my mother in law German so that she wouldn't be
mm.
confused and be made fun of as a child, which really sucks. So she kind of lost out
Oh,
on some of that like heritage of not really learning to speak German because of the
yeah,
experience that her brother went through.
yeah. And as you get older, it's so much harder to catch on to these
Hmm.
languages. Like, if you ask me to learn Farsi right now, oof, that's a hard language to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Um, so we are what hour and 15. We've gone
Ooh.
like probably close to like wrapping up um wrapping up. We got like you got a political question in here that I'm not gonna put towards you. I'm gonna
Thank you.
just for safety in the chat and the stream, I deleted that one.
Thank you.
I don't actually know the details of behind the scenes of the question, but don't really want to get into any political stuff. So I'm going to get rid of
Yeah.
that. And one of the questions that I have, maybe to end on, depending on where we go, is like, what do you have any like sort of technologies that you're interested in, like learning and like maybe you've used before and learning more, or maybe you just never used and you've heard of, and you think maybe it would be important for your skill set? Anything that you're like just interested in learning going forward?
It's hard to narrow it down because there's so much out there.
Sure. Yeah.
And when I have people just like, you should learn this, you should learn that, da da da, da," and I'm like, okay, one step at a time. I'm still trying to master JavaScript and
Yep.
React. I need to start there. But I, as you could probably tell, I like the video gamey stuff. So whatever
Hmm.
language helps me create some sort of video game is definitely something that I want to strive towards, which is I know more back end. I think that when I get a handle of the front end stuff and understand those languages, it'll make it easier to translate to the other more difficult languages that I'm too scared to even speak of. It's like Voldemort. If I speak their name, it's going to just appear and ah.
The language who must
But
not be named.
yeah. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I want to learn everything and the days go by super fast, but
They do.
eventually I'll get there. My goal is maybe in a year I'll learn mm, maybe like to keep it small, like really understand 5 languages. That might be huge. I don't know yet, but we'll see when I get there.
Yeah. I think for me, I don't worry as much about multiple languages as I do concepts. And this is what,
Mm,
when I taught a boot camp, when I taught the boot camp last year, we went from Python
mhm,
and we went into full stack Python, like doing servers in Python. And then we moved over to Java and doing
mm,
similar stuff, but in Java, which is drastically different.
mm.
But the concepts are similar, like the concept of an endpoint and an HTTP request and a
Yeah,
response and things like that. Like those are concepts that are going to take you, that you can take with you to all language, almost all languages and frameworks, because they do certainly have their differences, but most of it is just like the syntax and like how you do it. What you're actually
yeah,
trying to accomplish is usually very, very similar. So my piece of advice for like people out there that may be struggling with that is just kind of focus on understanding here's the pieces and how they fit together and why versus like here's the specific syntax of how I do that in this language, and that will help you apply it to like any other framework or language that you end up coming across down the line.
that's great. I love that. That is, as all my teachers have said, put that one in your back pocket
There you
and
go.
save it for later.
I got a little bit of confirmation in here from Thor. I agree, concepts are super important. I think that's what I missed, especially in my college classes. I missed understanding concepts. I tried to memorize stuff for tests and to pass tests
Hmm.
and just to get
Yeah.
grades versus actually understanding what I was doing and why. And so I've
Mm.
tried kind of since then to pay more attention to that kind of stuff to make sure that I'm in a good place going forward. Again, when you get into new tech stack, new methodologies and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things I think that helps me. Um, by the way, Brad Garapi, who joined in our stream in Discord or our chat in Discord to help us out with debugging some audio stuff, is now in the chat. He said he was on a call with Fauna. Brad, I want to hear what that conversation was about. But thanks for coming to the party. I think we're close to wrapping up, or at least it seems like it. Want to give a chance to any last minute questions? Throw those in the chat, and then Ro, any last minute links. I'll go and grab your Twitter again for people if they don't have
Hmm.
it, and any last minute links or anything you want me to share in here.
Mm, I'm not sure if you shared this already, but I have my Medium blogs where I'm going to continue the developer blog series where I do like these mini interviews. I ask like a base amount of questions and the developers
Hmm.
respond. That's slowly in the works, so that's on Medium.
How do I
And
find? Um,
mm,
what would I search for to bring that to get that link?
I think it would be my first and last name, which is, can I throw it in the chat here? No. It would be Rojhan
Mm-hmm.
and then P for Peter, AY, D for David, AR.
There we
That
go.
should, yeah.
And how I'm gonna take a stab and then you can correct me. Is it like Rojan Padar?
Close. It's Rojan.
Rojan. Okay.
It's kind of like Roseanne, but with a J.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
So my experience in Spanish started with a family from Argentina in Buenos
Mm.
Aires, where they pronounce the double L's in Spanish instead of a y, which is how most people do. They pronounce it with a j. So I have like
Oh,
adapted my pronunciation in Spanish to use the j in a lot of cases. So people, when I speak Spanish, they kind of recognize, hey, that That's got some Argentinian influence to it.
Well, that's great. I love when people do the je. I mean, if you don't, I'm not gonna be upset. I'm used to it. I've
Yeah.
been constantly like correcting people since I was young, but that's why I go by Ro because it's easy to remember and
Yeah.
it's easy to pronounce.
Yep.
Yeah.
Scrawbill says very pretty name, by the way. I agree. That is a very nice name.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
and I guess this may be the last question. Brad, who just came into the stream late, so he missed some of this earlier, is asking, what are you doing now after the boot camp? So I know you did that before, but if you want to
Yeah,
just kind of do that one more time as we wrap up.
sure. So Brad, I will tell you. Um, what I'm doing right now is I am job hunting, and in between that, I'm working on a client project. So it's just a website with a for a food truck company that's starting up, and then I'm also working on improving my JavaScript jQuery app, the one I mentioned before, the Battle of the Babies app. That one is a like a rock paper scissors randomized game, and then I didn't mention this before, but I'm doing a lot of studying in between and networking. So I'm just, trying to juggle all of that and the days just go by super fast. But it's been great. It's honestly so amazing that I could do so much right here at home. And if I wanted to do this outside, I could sit on the porch and do
Yeah.
my work. And that's amazing because, you can't do that in most jobs, but
Yep.
this job is, yeah, like I said before, the possibilities are endless with this career, and I'm super happy to be here.
It really is. You got a couple of comments back from Brad in that. So
Mhm,
I noticed this earlier and I didn't say anything, but when you talked about the website that you were building, you said just
mhm.
a website, and Brad, just for positive reinforcement, is saying it's never just a website. And I think like that's such an accomplishment that like don't
Yeah,
undersell it for yourself. Like you do take a lot of pride in it, but the verbiage there kind of sounds like it's not as important, but that's a huge thing, and it's such a cool project to
yeah,
have. So I think
that's
he's just kind
true.
of sending positive vibes your way to say that's a really good thing. Don't like undersell it on yourself. And
Yeah.
he said, "Good luck on the job hunt." He is one of the moderators in the Discord, and if you need any help or want to reach out to him, he has volunteered for you to reach out to him in Discord as well. And anybody
Oh,
that's
thank you.
in here that might be interested in joining, I just put the link to the Discord in there as well. We did have another question come through from Tracy. Question about how do you grow your JavaScript skills? Any specific resources or things you've done specifically for JavaScript?
Yeah, so one thing I've done is I created a little study group,
Oh,
and
cool.
a bunch of cohort mates and I, we were going through some beginner concepts with JavaScript. If you feel like that's your type of learning style, you could always grab some developers in the community, like through Twitter, or if you're in a boot camp, you could collect some people and, pitch in for a Zoom room for the month and like create a goal for yourself. And for me personally, that didn't end up working because everybody has their own pace. But if you find that learning with others helps, that's one thing you could do. Another thing I did was I used freecodecamp.org. So I'm still working on that one. I'm trying to get through the whole thing and it's a lot. And another thing is actually like applying it in real life practice, like,
Hmm.
just, yeah, like if you find a couple developers that are willing to work on a basic JavaScript project, even like if you hop on the JavaScript 30 that Westboss does, like that's a great way to apply your skills, and like learning through the process has been really helpful for me because I learn best visually and trying a couple times, a couple different ways to grasp the concepts.
Yep.
So yeah,
Uh,
that's what works for me.
Definitely. And that's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I give, that a lot of people give, is like put it to the test. Like try to build something and see what happens. Because Brad, who will testify to this, like he started working on what he thought was a pretty simple app, and once you start putting these pieces together, you realize, hey, there's a lot more to this than I thought. That now I need to go and figure out how to combine them together. And
Yeah,
that's the thing that really forces you to realize, hey, here's gaps of things I need to learn, and to force you to go out there and learn those things. And especially if it's something like your the Battle of the Babies, like you're
mhm,
so into it that you want to go and spend the time to find out the different pieces to make the extra pieces of functionality work, and it keeps you going, right?
yeah.
So yeah, a couple of People are agreeing with you. Free Code Camp, JavaScript. Scrawbill is going through algorithms right now. RPan is
Mm,
saying JavaScript 30 by West Boss. I've done that. Um,
yeah,
he also said um, YDKJS. I don't know what that is. YDKJS.
that sounds familiar actually. Is it
I
I
I
feel
don't
like
know.
there's one where you get an email from someone who somebody like has been
Oh,
emailing people. Is that the one?
it's
Don't-
you don't know JavaScript. It's a I think it's a
Yeah,
series of books. Yeah. I've never
yeah,
by Kyle Simpson. Yeah. I've never actually
yeah,
seen like the abbreviation there. But and I
yeah.
haven't read those either. There's a course on Udemy from Anthony Alicea that is JavaScript understanding the weird parts,
Oh
and
yeah,
that
that's the
was
one.
oh, you've done that one before or you've heard of it?
I'm about to start that one. I've been
Sweet.
told so much about it though.
It's
Sorry,
great.
continue though.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. So I would highly recommend. And Udemy has always been one of my biggest resources to grab courses for like 10 bucks or whatever. That's how I
Hmm.
got started in web development from scratch and like
Yeah.
really transitioned my career from the focus I had before to being in web development now. Really started from Udemy
Hmm.
and YouTube.
Yeah. I wanted to add something, by the way, because
Yeah.
one of the commenters said something about algorithms.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if everybody here is new to the world of, you know, development and being in the job market right now, but one of my first ever one of my first ever tech tests was with a company that was asking me to do algorithms. And as you know, I'm a junior front
Hmm.
end developer. And the question was rotate the n times n matrix by 90 degrees. And I was staring at it like, okay. So, needless
Rotate.
to say, I did not get that answer
Yeah.
because all the questions were like that. And I did not feel bad at all. And I want to tell the people who are new to this or who are coming out of a boot camp right now, don't feel bad if a company is asking you for something that you're not qualified for because you know your skill set and you know what you're capable of doing. And if you're a front end developer trying to do computer science for the first time ever, that's not your fault that you don't know the answer. You literally haven't learned. But if you find it interesting, now you're now aware to what you need to be prepared for and what you should probably study up on. I
Y-
just wanted to throw that in there because it was a little bit of a jab for my first ever test. I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
my god, is this what all the tests are like?" But no, it's not.
Well, you've got a comment in here from Brad saying that he can't do matrix math. I might be able to kind of work through some of that, but that would be really, really tricky, especially for entry level. And especially
It was
for,
a
like you said,
junior role.
right, coming in out of a boot camp is different than coming out of a computer science degree. That is one of the things
Yeah.
that I did get more of that sort of knowledge than you would get in a computer or in a boot camp. Like boot camp to me has
Mhm.
much more practical knowledge. And I did a lot with like data structures and algorithms that one, I didn't really understand the way I should. So I would have been a
Yeah.
little bit more prepared, but I would have bombed that. In my first technical interview, it was like the basics of object oriented programming. I completely bombed. Like fresh out of
Yeah.
a 4-year degree, like completely bombed. And
Yeah.
yet, like, there's lots of mixed feedback on like the value of those sort of like technical whiteboarding interviews. Most people aren't like super fond of it. Google still does it. I've done a couple of those. Those are super intense, and it's like an all day thing. It's a
Ugh.
lot, and I don't think in algorithms is crucial to start. I do think it is helpful to kind of gain a little bit of knowledge in the algorithm space the more you progress and
Mhm.
you kind of understand, all right, as I start building more complicated things, here's some of the implications and considerations I need to add along with that. But that's much further out. And you'll hear like a lot of people, even with Brad's number of years of experience, which is 7 to 10 or something, it's not the kind of thing that we just all of a sudden like, yeah, we could just do that. It's not like
No.
um, and those are most of those algorithms that people ask you to write are already written and included in a code
Yeah.
base. So you don't have to write
Mhm.
those functions; they already exist, which is kind of
Yeah.
the awkward thing about it. Um,
Yeah. But
y-
I will say my head was throbbing by the
oh
end
yeah,
because I was trying to prepare for the week and I was
yeah,
like, two of my mentor friends were like on it trying to help me and even they were like, I don't know
Yeah.
what to do. And I was like, if they don't know what to do and I don't know what to do, who knows what to do?
Hmm.
We all didn't know what to do because it was just way beyond what we were expecting to do.
Yep.
But
Yeah, it's a tough spot. So don't sweat it. If you even if you bomb an interview, you feel like you shouldn't have bombed. It happens. You'll have another interview,
yeah,
and you'll be able to take that and learn from it and prepare better the next time.
exactly.
And for people that do have interviews, ask what to expect. Like don't show up and be given that sort of interview when you weren't expecting. It's well within your right to say, what can I expect you to ask me or for me to be prepared to do? And then based on that, you can go and study and prepare for that interview specifically with what they say.
Exactly.
So, all right, I think that's good. This has been like time flies when I stream, especially when it's a good conversation, and it
Yeah.
certainly has been. But it's been an hour and a half. What answer? Sorry, one last question. International asked, "What boot
All
camp did
good.
you go to?" This was Juno in Toronto, and it was online
Yeah.
for the first time, and that's the boot camp that you went through.
Yes, that's correct.
Cool. All right. So thank you, Ro, for being here, for coming on and kind of sharing your experiences. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for coming and hanging out as well. This has been a really active chat. Lots of people in here. It's been a blast.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. No, thank you for having me.
yeah, you're
This
very
has been
welcome.
so
Yeah.
fun.
I look forward to just seeing more and more of your content that comes out. The CSS art, some of the game type stuff, I think will be a lot of fun. If
Yeah.
you haven't already, make sure to go and follow Ro on Twitter. Follow this channel if you haven't already. Follow the Aussie Road Twitch channel if you haven't already.